All right, let's break down a really complex legal battle, piece by piece. It's a story packed with accusations, a powerful defense, and a long, tangled history between everyone involved. And it all seems to pivot on one single chaotic night, which was foreshadowed by this one quote.
So this was said during a party, and it was caught on an audio recording. Now, on its own, it might sound like just a throwaway line, maybe someone had a bit too much to drink, but when you see what happened next, this statement suddenly becomes part of this really charged backdrop for a very serious criminal accusation. So how did a line like this even end up in a legal file? Let's dig in.
Okay, Section 1. An accusation of theft. This is ground zero. This is where one formal complaint kicks off the entire legal battle we're about to unpack.
Take a look at the official complaint. It's actually starkly simple. Mabina Sohail alleges that on April 15th, she entrusted a bag of valuables to Danish Thanvi, and, well, he never gave it back. This one document, this first information report, is what turns a personal dispute into a full-blown criminal case.
And let me be clear, the charges here are serious. We're not talking about some minor disagreement. Sections 420 and 406 of the Pakistan Penal Code, that's cheating and criminal breach of trust, are felonies. This means the state is now involved, and the accused, Danish, is facing the full weight of the justice system.
All right, on to Section 2, the counter-narrative. Because, as you know, in any legal fight, there's always another side to the story, and this one, it challenges absolutely everything.
This is where the defense basically weaponizes the calendar. They start asking some really tough questions, like, if a serious theft really happened on April 15th, why are the two of them swapping friendly messages on Instagram for weeks after? And, maybe more importantly, why would the complainant voluntarily go back to the home of the person who supposedly robbed her more than a month later? That 2-month delay in filing the report, that becomes the absolute cornerstone of their whole argument.
So you have this complete clash of realities. On one side, there's the accusation of a theft in mid-April. On the other side, you have video evidence from late May that seems to show the accuser visiting the accused's home, looking totally relaxed and leaving without any sign of a problem. The defense argues this footage just makes the whole theft story fall apart.
So, armed with this evidence, the defense files a petition to quash the case, basically to have the judge throw it out completely. They argue, look, there was a huge, unexplained delay. They were friendly after the supposed crime. The video proves there was no criminal intent, and they wrap it all up by framing the entire complaint as an act of mala fide, a legal term for a case filed in bad faith purely to harass someone. Okay, Section 3, inside the apartment. Now we have to rewind to the night of the incident itself, because, there are audio recordings from that night, and they paint a very, very chaotic picture.
This quote from the complainant herself really sets the scene. You have to ask yourself, right? How reliable can anyone's memory be when, by their own admission, they're in a drunken state? It immediately casts doubt on everything that was said and done that night.
The recordings also give you a feel for the atmosphere. This doesn't sound like a quiet meeting where someone would formally hand over valuables for safekeeping. It sounds tense, maybe a little chaotic, a social dynamic that just completely clashes with the clean legal story of a sober handover of property.
And then there's this line. It's maybe the most provocative quote from all the recordings. The complainant calls messing people up her favorite hobby. You can bet the defense team seized on this. They would argue it shows a potential motive, filing a false report just to settle a score, or maybe even just to create chaos.
So, at the end of the day, the audio paints a picture of messy human reality. It was a loud, emotionally charged party, not some clear, linear sequence of events, and that's a huge problem. Because a court of law, it needs a clean, simple story to prove a crime beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, Section 4, a decade of harassment? Because for the defense, this story is so much bigger than just one night. They try to reframe this entire accusation as just one event in a much, much longer war. From another recording, we hear from Danish himself. He connects this specific charge to a much larger and deeply personal struggle. He's alleging that this is all just part of a pattern of oppression that he claims has even kept him from seeing his own child.
To build this case, the defense presents what they call a broader pattern to the court. They point to a previous cybercrime case that was thrown out, alleged interference with his business, and what they say is the suspicious timing of this FIR, filed right after he was acquitted in a totally different case. They're arguing this isn't an isolated incident, it's a tactic.
Now, the threat he perceived was so real that Danish took a pretty incredible step.
He installed cameras all through his home, basically creating a 24/7 recording of his own life. His goal was simple: protect himself from what he feared were false accusations by having an objective record of everything.
And that brings us to our final section, the legal showdown. Because now we have to look at the strategy here. There are two very distinct paths forward for the accused.
So Danish is really at a crossroads. His lawyers see two main options. The first is defensive. Focus all your energy on getting this one specific FIR thrown out. It's faster, it's lower risk. The second option is to go on offense. File a massive lawsuit that addresses the entire alleged pattern of harassment. But that's the long game, a slow, high-risk play for what you hope is long-term justice.
So what's the recommended strategy? Well, it's sequential. First, you play defense. You have to put out the immediate fire. That's the criminal charge that could land you in jail. Only when that threat is gone can you even think about going on the offense to try and solve the bigger root problem.
And this whole thing leaves us with a really difficult question. When a messy personal history, full of emotion and years of conflict, crashes head-on into a legal system that demands simple, clear facts, how is justice ever truly found?